video.
Dear friends, Foxians, and the women of my country, I am Dr. Shanta Kumari, President of the Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies of India. As a doctor and a woman myself, I have observed very closely how prevalent violence against women is across the strata of our society and the enormous impact it has on the health of our women. My theme for the year as the President Foxy is Foxy for all always and DHEERA, Stop Violence Against Women.
Dr. Shanta Kumari, who has relentlessly campaigned for the issues of girl child. I was happy to be the ambassador of Foxy Figure Ox in 2013, and I hope that me being an ambassador has motivated a lot of girls and many families.
Violence against women is a serious human rights violation, leading to injury and sometimes even death. Unfortunately, 1 in 3 women experience some sort of physical and sexual violence during their lifetime. Violence in pregnancy is also widely prevalent, leading to unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions, neglected pregnancies with no antenatal care, all these contributing to maternal morbidity and near miss. As obstetricians and gynecologists, we have a great opportunity to assess and support women who experience violence because of the unique opportunity where we get to see them during the pregnancy, during the family planning visits, during their annual checkups, and multiple other times when they come to us. I strongly believe that by eliminating the violence against women, we are not only reaching the SDG goals, but also creates a just and equal society for our women. Until we make men and boys active partners, we can never end the violence against women. In an endeavor to sensitize our own fraternity, my initiative of DHEERA was started to eliminate violence against women.
I completely support her vision and mission as President Foxy and also especially support her campaign DHEERA, Stop Violence Against Women.
It was in 2016 at the launch of DHEERA. We brought together the police, the obstetrician gynecologists, the National Commission for Women, the women and men on one single platform to wear orange and say no to violence against women. We organized the public forum and cyclothon to launch DHEERA. In 2017 at the Foxy Figo Congress, we partnered with men and organized the bikeathon and the flash mob. The high point of DHEERA was at the International Figo Congress at Rio, Brazil in 2018. The declaration on no to violence against women was signed with Figo and WHO. It was here global societies pledged their support to end this violence against women. The DHEERA campaign and march at the World Congress of Figo in Rio in 2018 got wide international publicity. No change is possible unless the young minds adopt it and make it a part of their life. Young minds are open and creative. They accept change. Foxy has always worked with adolescents for their health and well-being. DHEERA this year adds a new page. I'm happy to share with you all that we are launching the DHEERA online school certification course across the length and breadth of our country in all the schools. Foxy for all always. DHEERA, Stop Violence Against Women.
Great. After having heard the wonderful, introduction to the entire program by our beloved President Shanta, who has taken up this cause not just this year but for last couple of years which have gone by, and it is only building up further to take this process forward. Before we start on to the next session, a couple of things I wanted to alert you about. First is post-test and feedback submission is compulsory for the certification, which is in addition to registration and pre-test, which all of you have already completed, and that's the reason why you are in this program and have been able to join in today. So 4 things: registration, pre-test you have done, post-test and feedback is what you have to complete. Post test and feedback, when you complete the session today and you leave the meeting, when you end the meeting today and the training program, Zoom will give you a pop up. In that pop up, two items will be there: continue, exit Zoom. If you click on exit Zoom, you will not get the post test and feedback. So you click continue. When you click continue, you will be directed to the Google form in which you finish the post test and the feedback. Therefore, when you exit the meeting, leave the meeting, close the meeting, you get a pop-up. Pop-up will say continue, exit, click on continue. So you get the Google form to take the whole process forward. This is going to be a highly interactive session in terms of a lot of information will be given out, and the speakers are going to talk to you about putting your comments in the chat box. As has been the experience of the past couple of training programs in the school, in your school, uh, we have to constantly request you to start activating your chat box so that a meaningful dialogue and an exchange can take place to discuss the matter, to bring your comments to the fore. And I will strongly urge you, please do not feel intimidated just because we are here. We are here to hold hands together and move forward together, which is hashtag DHEERA together. And we will support you all the way to make sure the understanding is right, the action plan is right, and the entire management part is also right. So kindly keep the chat box full with lot of your comments and lot of your inputs. On that happy note, I will invite Dr. Nandini to please walk us through the first two sessions, or first two topics out of the 6 topics that we'll be addressing today for each one of you. Thank you so much. Nandini, over to you.
Good morning, children. What is violence against women? How does DHEERA play into it? DHEERA is a flagship program. It's a massive initiative which is taken all across the country. This initiative started by Dr. Shanta Kumari Madam, who is the President of Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecological Societies of India. I request all the children to take this session as an interactive session and kindly write your thoughts, your responses in the chat box. Today's agenda: what is DHEERA? What is violence against women? Types of violence against women? Management of violence against women, which includes introduction, role of bystanders, bridging the gender gap, and peer pressure. You have already done the registration and the pre-test. After the session, kindly write the post-test, which will be in the Google form, and give your valuable feedback. This is an online certification course. Certificate will be awarded to participants on course attendance and submission of registration, pre-test, post-test, and feedback. What is DHEERA? DHEERA means courageous, the power of being together. Hashtag DHEERA together. What Akalbraro mentioned, not all men practice violence against women, but all women live with the threat of male violence every single day, all over the earth. This is true in the developed countries as well as in the developing countries. Violence against women is a global human rights violation. There are short-term and long-term physical, economic, and psychological consequences. It prevents the woman from full and equal participation in the society. The magnitude of its impact on society is immeasurable. Conditions created by the pandemic, including lockdowns, reduced mobility, heightened isolation, stress, and economic uncertainty, have all led to an alarming spike in domestic violence. During the time of pandemic, there was also a shadow pandemic of violence. There were many police cases which were registered during the pandemic. Are you aware of or have you seen any woman being beaten, threatened, scolded at home, school, or neighborhood? Do you think this is right? What is such behavior called? Is there any word to describe it? Please write your responses in the chat box. It's called violence against women. Violence against women is the most shameful human rights violation. It is most widespread. It knows no boundaries of geography, culture, or wealth. As long as it continues, there is no real progress towards equality, development, and peace. What exactly is violence against women? Forcing a woman to live in fear. It could be mental, sexual, or physical, individually or in combination. The roots of violence against women. There are five aspects: patriarchal society, gender stereotyping, sexism, gender bias, toxic masculinity. Are you aware of these terms? What do you understand by terms patriarchal society, gender stereotyping, sexism, gender bias, toxic masculinity? If you are aware of these terms, please mention in the chat box. Gender bias, preference for males, girls considered burdens, feticide, infanticide, neglecting female health issues. Patriarchal society, a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Decision making rests with the male in the family. Even today, there are most of the states where patriarchal society is practiced. Gender stereotyping. Gender stereotyping is seen from many generations. Boys are competitive, logical, strategic, aggressive, and they are independent. And, and girls are faithful, more emotional. They are tolerant and sympathetic, and mostly dependent. Sexism, prejudice, stereotyping, discrimination, typically against women based on sex gender. Can you think of any examples of sexism? If you know, then please mention in the chat box. In the sports activity, it is seen that the prize money for the female is lower as compared to the male. In the offices, you must have seen that the males are given preferences for promotion. If a female is driving on the roads, you will hear such comments like female can't drive better than men. Toxic masculinity. Males have an attitude like I'm a man, I'm strong, I don't cry, I can control, I'm the boss, I'm the savior. Because of this attitude, there are a lot of household issues and family issues. Why doctors for women want to talk about violence against women? Gynecologists are points of contact who can recognize changes in lifestyle. Most of the health problems of women are rooted in violence. Serious health problems during pregnancy have roots in violence. Women, when they approach the doctor, they feel very comfortable. They are free to talk about their issues. They are able to describe their sufferings. They can talk freely to the doctors what their problems are. So doctors should be talking on these critical issues. Why DHEERA? DHEERA is a flagship program. It's a massive initiative which is taken all across the country. It was founded by our president, Foxy President, Dr. Shanta Kumari Madam, to stop violence against women. Violence Against Women campaign is an all India initiative to sensitize, orient, train 36,000 obstetrician and gynecologists, 5 lakh boys and girls like you, starting from the grade 9th and 12th, and also 15,000 teachers all across the country. These are some of the photographs of the campaign which is done in the past, that is Madam Dr. Shanta Kumari and the volunteers which were present. Courageous together, say no to violence against women. Hashtag DHEERA together. Let's tweet together. Build a voice. Our target is 1 lakh tweets. So add your courageous voice to the conversation. Registration and pre-test you have already done. After the session, write the post-test which will be in the form of Google form, and give your valuable feedback. This is an online certification course. Certificate will be awarded to participant on course attendance and submission of registration, pre-test, post-test, and feedback.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nandini.
Thank you, children.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nandini, for walking us through the first part of the session. Good morning, Sri Vidya. Good to have you. Yeah. And good morning, Shobha. Good to have you as well. Yeah, good to see you guys. Before we continue with the next session, students, I will request you, when we say please put your comments in the chat box, means we request you to please put your comments in the chat box. And if I don't see some comments coming in soon, I will be putting all of you on the spot and calling you out by name. Okay. So can we have some comments on the earlier presentation by Laksh, Avi, Maitri, Priyam, Anvesha? We need to warm up. It's 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, we better start having some comments. And you are the younger generation. You are the ones who actually talk and who give feedback and who take the torch, and you have the energy and the wherewithal. We need some comments from you. We need some inputs from you to make this session that much more interactive and that much more beneficial from an understanding and a knowledge point of view. We can't give it to you everything in this 2-hour session. Okay, let us try to do this. Yeah, Kaushambi, thank you very much. Yeah, finally we have some comment there. Maitri, can we have some comment from you? We'll wake you up, don't worry. Everyone will be woken up. So this is actually an interactive session. We want you to enjoy this session as we are going forward with the session. Yeah. So Nandini, we can continue with the next one, and we will keep requesting our students, the youngsters, to keep giving us comments with the every part that you're asking them to do so.
Types of violence against women. DHEERA, it's a flagship program which was started by Madam Dr. Shanta Kumari, who is the president of Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecological Societies of India. Contains physical violence, psychological violence, and combination. In physical violence, we will see acid attacks, honor killing, femicide, sexual violence. Psychological violence, financial manipulation, emotional abuse, bullying, stalking, eve teasing, criminal intimidation, combination, domestic violence. Children, if you know or about these terminologies, or if you have seen any of these, do write your responses in the chat box. Acid attack. Physical violence. Acid attack, a form of assault involving throwing a corrosive substance onto another, sometimes used as a form of blackmail. Case study. Miss Lakshmi Agarwal. Lakshmi was attacked in 2005 at the age of 15 after rejecting the romantic advances of a man who was 32 years old. For more details, you may watch the movie Zapak. What can you do if attacked is threatened or attempted? If attacked, report the attack to doctor. Report the attack to an adult. Report the attack to authorities. Report to trust adult and police. To make sure to stay away from person threatening, always travel with others. Under section 326B IPC, imprisonment not less than 5 years, but which may extend to 7 years, and shall also be liable to fine. Make sure to get treatment as soon as possible. Talk to parents, teachers, police, or anyone you trust. Make sure you stay away from perpetrator of crime. Section 326A IPC can be charged leads to imprisonment not less than 10 years, which may extend to imprisonment of for life. Fine charged to meet the medical expenses of survivor. Honor killing, murder of an individual, either an outsider or a member of a family, used to protect reputation of the family, as it is believed that the victim brought disrepute to the family. Femicide, a gender-based crime, arises when society prefers males over females, can take the form of woman-based hate crime, infanticide, killing of a newborn female child, feticide, abortion of fetuses based on gender, sexual assault, an act in which a man sexually touches a woman or compels her to get naked forcefully and without outward consent, punishable under section 354 IPC with 1 to 5 years and a fine, causes long-term mental trauma to the survivor. If you see sexual assault taking place, stop it or call help, even if your friend is the abuser. Nirbhaya Act 2013 and Section 375 IPC protect women against any type of rape. Section 354A IPC protects against sexual harassment and unwanted physical contact. POSCO Act 2012 protects minors from sexual abuse. If you are a survivor, do not shame yourself. You are not to blame. Don't take bath or wash yourself. Don't change your clothes. Write down what happened. Inform the police. Report in a timely manner so that there is evidence. Do not be afraid to speak up, as you are never at fault and an abuser is bound to repeat actions. I see you. I believe you. It's not your fault. You are not alone. Hashtag survivor love letter. You talk to the survivor and build a rapport and show that you trust her, and then you can help her. Psychological violence. Financial manipulation involves making or attempting to make a person financially dependent on maintaining total account over resources. withholding access to money and or forbidding attendance at school or employment. Case study. Raj monitors his wife Ananya's bank account and does not let her buy what she wants. Raj parents don't let Ananya go to work. What Ananya will do? What can Ananya do? Children, write your responses, comments in the chat box. Let us know what Ananya can do. Emotional abuse, undermining a person's sense of self worth through constant criticism. Most common examples: name calling, damaging a partner's relationship with children, not letting partner see friends or family. Signs of emotional abuse. What are the signs of emotional abuse? Disrupting your feelings, making you feel guilty, threatening to hurt themselves, nothing you do or say is good enough, blaming you for things going wrong in their life, feeling jealous when you are close to someone else, humiliating or embarrassing you, controlling you, telling you how to dress, overreacting for small things. I would tell you one case study. Shreya is married to Ashok, whose colleagues mock him for earning less. Feeling hurt over his pride, Ashok takes out his frustration by drinking more often. Frequent rage behavior, tantrums by breaking things, yelling and blackmailing Shreya of divorcing her. This constant fault finding behavior of Ashok had a toll on mental health of Shreya. What can Shreya do? Children, write your comments and your response. What do you think Shreya can do? Bullying, continuous harassment, either verbal or physical, can be in the form of cyberbullying or ragging. I will tell you about one case study. Neil, a senior, asks out Ria, his junior, who rejects him. He feels embarrassed and not to bandage his pride, starts up a rumor that Ria is a slut. He starts to harass her every day, calling her fat, ugly, and other such derogatory terms. He throws eggs at her house with his friends, pours water on her homework, and provokes all his friends into teasing her wherever they see her. You see this taking place. What do you do? Do you help Ria? Do you who you who do you contact? Let us know how you can help Ria. Cyberbullying, online form of bullying and abuse. When technology is used to write aggressive, embarrassing, or hateful messages to and about peer in order to intimidate, harass, shame, and control. This includes threatening, abusive text messages, creation of embarrassing images or videos, sharing them, creating fake accounts, stealing online identities, sharing sexually explicit messages. Most of us are using mobile phones and other types of digital devices. You should be aware of what are the different types of cyberbullying. The types of cyberbullying are exclusion, gossip, frapping, harassment, outing, and trickery, cyber stalking, and fake profiles. Now I will describe each of this. Exclusion. Exclusion is an act of deliberately excluding someone from an online group. Suppose you are having a group in which you discuss every subject on a regular basis, and someone removes you from that group. That is exclusion. Gossip, damaging a person's reputation and or relationship with family or friends. Frapping, impersonating a person by logging into someone else's social networking account. Harassment, constant and intentional posting and sending offensive, threatening messages. You must have seen in your social groups also, online groups, that there are digital harassments in the group. Outing and trickery, act of tricking someone into revealing personal information which is then shared publicly to humiliate him or her. What is cyber stalking? Harassing online by posting or sending unwanted or intimidating messages, including real threats on safety. Fake profiles. Fake profiles are created to hide their real identity. Any of you know about exclusion, gossip, frapping, harassment, outing, trickery, cyber stalking, fake profiles? Write your responses and comments in the chat box. Females are 2 times more likely to be victims of cyberbullying. So, children, do write your responses in the chat box and do let us know. What can you do if you are being cyberbullied? Check platforms' anti-bullying policy, blocking and reporting. File a criminal complaint. Get in contact with customer service representatives if confused. Make sure to collect screenshots. Approach the cyber investigation cell. You can report to a cyber cell from any city. If unable to report to cyber cell, lodge FIR or reach women-oriented she teams. Stalking. When an individual follows a woman and repeatedly tries to contact her without consent. Stalking can also be done digitally. Section 354D IPC imprisons the culprit for 1 to 3 years and culprit can be liable to fine. I will tell you one case study. Sanjay, 17, starts to follow around Meera, 17, everywhere she goes, learning her everyday routine, taking pictures of her, joining her tuitions, etc. His friends start to encourage him, comparing him to popular roles that actors have played in Bollywood movies. Meera starts to feel uncomfortable. What can she do next? What do you think, children? What Meera can do? Write in the chat box. Voyeurism, the watching and or taking pictures of women without consent and without the knowledge of the woman. Section 354C IPC imprisons the culprit for 1 to 3 years on first conviction. After more convictions, abuser can be imprisoned for 3 to 7 years. Eve teasing, obscene actions like unwanted remarks, sexual advances by a man to insult a woman in a public place is eve teasing. Section 294 IPC punishes men who act, speak in an obscene way for a maximum of 3 months. Section 509 IPC punishes men who acts or uses an object to insult a woman with hail term for up to 3 years. If you have seen any eve teasing in your civil societies, in your local area, do let us know and write in the chat box. Criminal intimidation. When someone is threatening to cause death or grievously or to destroy your property, Section 503 IPC can cause imprisonment for up to 2 years. or a fine or both. Sexual harassment. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, sexual remarks showing pornography without consent all constitute as sexual harassment. Can be reported under Section 354A IPC, which is punishable with up to 3 years of imprisonment. Case study. Unseasonal rain has caused a farmer to lose a considerable amount of crop that he was unable to sell. To make ends meet, he takes a loan from the village loan shark, Raghu. After a few months, unable to pay his loan back, his daughter offers to help settle her father's debt by working for the loan shark. Taking advantage of their desperation, Raghu sexually harasses the girl. If you saw this happening, what could you do? Please mention in the chat box. Combination. Domestic violence does not just have to be between a married couple. Any pattern of behavior used to gain, maintain power or control over partner. Main issues. Most victims of domestic violence do not know that they are being abused. It is hard to believe a trusted partner could be manipulative. Can also be harassment from in-laws. And most of the time, domestic violence is not 1 day, 2 day. Domestic violence continues for a very, very long time unless it is reported. Examples to gain power and control by using intimidation, using emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children, using male privileges, using economic abuse. These are all examples to gain power and control. Cycle of abuse. There is remorse, returns, excuse, abuse, minimizes abuse, arranges therapy, blames self, then honeymoon. Hopeful, relieved, happiness, cared for, pretending, then tension, becomes anxious, walking on eggshells, complaint, reasoning, silence, explosion, apologizes, seeks help, breaks down, fights back, leaves, remorse. This cycle of abuse continues. There is violence, then there is apology, and then again there is violence. This cycle of abuse continues. Domestic Violence Act 2005 covers physical, sexual, verbal, and economic abuse, grants immediate protection, punishes the abuser with imprisonment up to 3 years. Are you aware? Any of you knows what is Domestic Violence Act? Please mention in the chat box. Ending violence against women, one step at a time. Violence against women, DHEERA, is a flagship program. It's a massive initiative which is taken all across the country for ending the violence against women. You have already done the registration and pre-test. After the session, write the post-test, which is in a Google form, and give your valuable feedback. DHEERA is an online certification course. Certificate will be awarded to participant on course attendance and submission of registration, pre-test, post-test, and feedback. Courage is together. Say no to violence against women. Hashtag DHEERA together. Let's treat together. You are there on the Instagram. Kindly tweet. We are going to build a voice. Our target is 1 lakh tweets. So add your courageous voice to the conversation. Your voice is valuable. You are the young minds of our country. We'll be waiting for your response and comments in the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nandini, for that wonderful presentation. Yeah, you have been at it since 8:30 in the morning, and so have I. And it's lovely to have you, walk us through this entire sessions. Before we hand over to Sri Vidya, who's also joined us now since morning, and two comments that I wanted to address were by Binay and Ayush. Binay and Ayush, and all the boys, students who are in this part of this program, let me tell you categorically, yes, men and boys are also affected and impacted by any kind of violence or any kind of types of violences that we have talked about. It's the entire objective of this course is to make it as gender neutral as possible, and therefore in the entire address that we talk about both boys and girls, and that is the reason why each one of you are also sitting in this training program. Having said that, we need to also understand the proportion of men versus women who are affected and impacted by this particular issue. And all of you will agree that by and large, not just in our country, even in the developing and the developed countries, the proportion of women going through this gender inequality, violence against them is far, far exceeding than what it is for men. So it would be men for men, men against women, women against women. So it is not specific to any particular gender. It is it's almost like omnipresent, and it's happening. And the entire situation has been worsened because of the COVID situation as well, because families are locked in together and they are being affected. So having said that, Binay, Ayush, please be assured, each one of us are into this. Each one of us need to stand up and be counted. Stand up and raise your voice. And that is the whole objective of taking this entire initiative forward. Krishnali, I fully agree with the comment that you have made. Yes, we are all beautiful inside. The whole thing is to bring that beauty, inner beauty outside, stand up, speak up, be counted, because we are the young blood, you are the young blood who are the future generation of our country and for humanity as a whole. And it is you who have to take the torch forward for all of us. And each one of the presenters here are a team of us who have joined this initiative and are conducting these sessions all across the country. In the first presentation, you must have already seen the second last slide. We are planning to reach almost 500,000 students spread across private and public institutions, almost 15,000 teachers, 37,000 obstetricians and gynecologists who are going to lead this program and are leading this program at this point in time. So that's about it. And with on that note, and before Sri Vidya comes on, the number of comments that I'm seeing or the number of chat box inputs that I'm seeing are limited in number. I'm expecting more interaction because you have an opinion, you have a thought process. Each one of you are thinking individuals. Please add to the chat box. We want that kind of interaction. We want a cross interaction between each one of you also to make this whole session that much more interesting and meaningful. Over to you, Sri Vidya.
Thank you, Ajay. Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Srividya Srinivasan, and I'll just open my presentation, just a minute. Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the President of FOXY, Dr. Shanta Kumari, for having taken this great initiative. I would like to say a very good morning to all my fellow FOXY team members who are there in this session with me, and a good morning to all of you, my dear students, who are there with me on this Saturday morning. I am Dr. Srividya Srinivasan. I represent Thane Obstetric Gynec Society. Thane is a city in Maharashtra, which is the neighboring city of Mumbai. And today I'm going to talk to you, my previous speaker, Dr. Nandini, she introduced you to the topic of what is violence against women and why we need to wake up and why we need to do something about it. So she talked to you about the various aspects of violence against women. I'm going to deal with how you manage such events, such episodes that occur if they were to occur in your presence. So the topics we are going to deal with in today's sessions are going to be we will be introducing you to how to manage violence against women. The second topic that I'm going to talk about is going to be on what if you are a bystander? If you are seeing violence being perpetrated on someone else, what is your role? What is it that you would do in such a situation? And we are also going to deal with, there is a gender divide in our society. It's there worldwide, not there in India alone. So how do we go about bridging this gender divide? That is also going to be dealt with today. I would like to remind you, all of you are here with me because you have registered for this session. You have filled a pre-test form. I would insist that you also fill a post-test and feedback form, the link for which will be available to you once we finish today's session at 1 p.m. That is important for you to get your certificate of attendance for today's program. So what are the different factors that contribute to violence against women? This is something we need to know.
Srividya, we can't
yes?
see your screen. We can't see
your
your
screen.
So
sorry.
Share the screen, please.
I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Slideshow mode. Can you see it now? It tells me
we can see it. Screen. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, I just try to go to slideshow mode.
Is this a PDF, is it?
No, it's the PowerPoint that you have mailed me.
Yeah, okay. So there should be some icon on the right
it was there. There. It was there the last time I shared it. So that is why I was confident that I am sharing screen. But let me see again.
Bashir, can you help, please?
So can I share my screen, sir?
Yeah, you could do that as well.
Yeah, you can do that, Shriman. Yeah.
Okay, sir, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can now see it. Can you see my screen now?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Oh, it's paused. 1 minute, huh? I'll just do it again.
Yeah,
You can
this
see
is
slide
3
one.
months. This is 3 months
Okay,
screen. You
fine.
can start.
Fine.
Move on to the third slide, Sriman.
Okay, sir.
Next one. Next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about what contributes to violence against women in our society. So what do you think contributes to violence against women? Can I have the answers on your chat box, please? On the chat box. I want all of you to give me your inputs. Please mute yourselves, dear students, and whatever you want to say. I would like to have your opinion on the chat box. That will ensure that I get your opinion and that the session is progressing at the pace it ought to progress. What do you think contributes to violence against women? What are the factors in our society? It is, at times, there is a discrimination against women to begin with. There is a gender bias that is, for some reason, I will not say it happens in all households, but in many households, the male is considered superior. So the male is considered the head of the household. So there could be social issues. There could be social factors that contribute to this violence against women. There could be innate bias that is there amongst members of the society. And there could be individual issues as well. Like the person who is perpetrating the violence against women could be dissatisfied with himself or herself for whatever reason. So they could be having either a superiority or an inferiority complex because of which they want to show their supremacy to a weaker individual. They could be having their own anger issues. They could be having their stresses in life. And very often, most of us at times during a weak moment choose to take out this frustration or vent out this frustration on somebody who is weaker and less likely to retaliate or give back. So this is how this happens. Very often, the people who perpetrate violence on a weaker individual are themselves, they have been survivors of violence perpetrated against them in childhood, or they have seen it happening in their households in childhood, which is why they probably feel it is okay to do this. It's okay, and to vent out their anger, and that it should be forgiven and forgotten. So that is the mentality because of which this is perpetrated. The individual very often lacks compassion and may be prone to substance abuse. So next slide, please. So the very action of violence against women or perpetrating violence on anybody for that matter is the mindset of an individual. And this mindset very often is perpetrated, nurtured since childhood. It is based on the way a person is brought up. So to a large extent, this is the reason. It's like that is why it is important that we as children spread this message in our own homes, in people whom we interact with, that this will not do. And we have to take care to avoid gender bias, gender discrimination, avoid violence in our day-to-day lives, in our homes, because that is where things begin. That is where we learn how to become better individuals in society when we step out into the world. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, what should you do if you know someone is being abused, someone in whom you're meeting day to day? First of all, you don't be afraid. Only then you can counsel somebody. You have to be brave. It's a very good habit to be a good listener. You develop more friends, you develop a wider social circle if you know how to listen. Many times, if you listen to somebody's pain, to somebody's problem, that itself solves 50% of their problem. They feel nice. You reassure that person, ask her to stay brave, believe in their story. Many times, what happens is the person who is approached with the problem says, oh, what rubbish, this must not have happened. Usne aisa to nahi kiya hoga. I know that individual. He's a very good boy. He must not have done something like that. But how do you know? You have not been there at that point of time when that incident happened. So nobody usually comes with a cock and bull story. So believe the story of the survivor. Do not blame the victim. Tum raat ko akeli kyun gayi thi? You had not worn, you were not dressed up appropriately for the occasion. These kind of comments should not be made. If you are actually seeing violence being perpetrated on someone and you are present there in the situation, keep an eye on the situation, make sure it's not getting too dangerous. If you can stall the problem then and there, it would be a great idea. How will you solve the problem? That we will come across to, we will discuss in our next presentation, which is what is the role of a bystander. Ask the people who are involved in the situation about their immediate plans. So that way you distract them from what is happening and the violence that is likely to be perpetrated at that point of time. If you are not able to intervene and solve the problem, please report it immediately to a higher authority. If you're in school, it could be a teacher. If you are at home, it could be a parent. It could be the police if you are in a public place. Respect the decision of the survivor. That ultimately, if the survivor says, leave me alone, this is a personal issue, please do not interfere, then do not interfere. Try and keep the conversation going so as to prevent, so that you are engaging them in something else and preventing violence from happening. Be careful that any action taken by you does not harm you or the victim, because only if you are safe can you be of help to someone else, and only if and your ultimate aim is that the victim is safe. So that has to be borne in mind. Next slide, please. What should you do if it is you who is the survivor, you who is being abused, if it is you are at the receiving end? You have to, many times what happens is you are at the receiving end of violence which is being perpetrated by somebody whom you are very close to, somebody whom you trust. So then it becomes important to detach yourself from the emotional aspect of the relationship and introspect and think as to why should you take abuse even from this individual, even if he or she is close to you. So during an incident, protect yourself from leaving the vicinity. Avoid escalating the situation. Avoid getting into a heated argument, especially when you do not have a backup. If the incident is worthy enough to be reported, please report it to the authorities, to the police. Keep evidence of the abuse. If you can record the abuse, if you can take a photograph, you will have evidence to show in a court of law tomorrow. If the perpetrator of the violence is in your home, be prepared. Have a safety kit ready so that in the event you need to leave home in a couple of minutes, you need to run, you have your essentials in that kit and you can go away. And keep somebody whom you trust in the know so that they are available to you for help. Let somebody whom you trust know that you are being subjected to abuse. This someone could be a friend, a neighbor, it could be your doctor, it could be a teacher, it could be just about anyone whom you trust. Next slide, please. Speak out. Don't let the abuser rob you of your voice. Okay, very often what happens is there is a little bit of self-shame or self-doubt that you have, especially if you are a victim of abuse. So it becomes difficult to speak out and to tell someone else that, because you have a good image otherwise in society. So to tell someone else that, okay, I'm being subjected to abuse, it's difficult. But believe that your words have power, that you do not deserve this, You have to speak up, and you have to speak up first to the many times. If you speak up strongly to the perpetrator of the violence itself, speaking up, it ends that circle of violence against women, of violence against you yourself. Okay, so take a stand, speak up, make it known, and many times your problem is most likely to be solved at that stage. Next slide, please. So why should you report violence against somebody? So because we should not let down another generation of victims. The victim of an incident of abuse should be given a platform to speak, should be believed in. We have to ultimately stand up for justice. And don't forget that very often this violence is being perpetrated against somebody, especially if you know the individual who is the perpetrator of the violence, because he or she probably has some psychological problem, is getting some pleasure out of perpetrating that violence. It could be psychological violence, it could be physical violence, but don't let it happen. And if somebody is perpetrating violence against a weak individual, that person has to speak up. So give such an individual a platform to speak up. It is important. Do not try and suppress it. Next slide, please. So these are some apps that can come in handy. They have a lot of safety tips. I would advise you all to try out each of these apps and download that which you feel is best suited to you. Smart Sheher Women Safety Shield Protection, Vithu, Scream Alarm, a suspects registry. So this could kind of give you information. Be safe, and Abhaya, of course, is for legal advice in case you have been subjected to violence. So it's a good habit always, especially if you are traveling alone. More important for girls, maybe for boys as well, especially if you're traveling alone in the night. Share your live location with somebody whom you trust. This can easily be done with our smartphones. Take a picture. It is a feature that is available in most of our cab apps like Ola and Uber. Take pictures of the driver, taxi driver, the license plate. So let somebody whom you trust know that you are traveling alone at this hour of the night, so that in case of an emergency, help is not far behind. Yes, next please. This is the signal for help. All of you do this in front of your screens? Yes? So what you do is you extend your 4 fingers and press them over your flexed thumb. Do this, flexing and extending your fingers. Oh, sorry. Do this. Yeah, I just changed the view settings. I wanted to. Yeah. So this is something that we all should be aware of. So if you should know this signal first of all, so that you can recognize it if you have somebody who is in distress. Next slide, please. So if you see somebody in distress, what should you do? Check in with the person safely, find out how you can help that person. call the local police and the helplines that I'm going to share with you very soon. Next slide. Previous slide. Yeah, so this is the All India Women Helpline number for women in distress, 1091. In case of domestic abuse, the helpline is 181. The National Commission for Women is this number, 269-42369. This is for Delhi. This is the Outer Delhi helpline for women. And of course, you could contact local champions, NGOs in your locality. For that, you should have their numbers and the local police station. Next slide, please. These are helpline numbers for specific cases, like the gender-based violence helpline would be 0800-007-709. There's a child helpline. Most important, the child helpline toll-free is 1098, right? And this is another domestic abuse helpline, 0800-150-150. Next slide, please. So how should you go about reporting an incident of violence that you have witnessed? You report it to the local police station. There is usually a special police unit meant for violence against women. There is a female cop present in every police station for this purpose. Remember, it is important to record the statement with the police within 24 hours. We need to take the survivor to a hospital, especially in case of physical or sexual abuse. The survivor can also be taken to a shelter home for medical examination by a female doctor. Coming to this point, I would like to tell you that there was a very eminent pediatrician in Mumbai called Dr. Fernandez. She started an NGO called Sneha, which is still functioning today. And in the locality of Sion in Mumbai, women who were subjected to domestic abuse could contact this NGO, and such women were admitted to an urban health center in the locality for a period of 2 to 3 days, during which time both their physical and psychological scars were healed. They were given food, they were given shelter, their family was contacted, and then they were sent back. It's important to record this statement with the magistrate, especially in case of rape or sexual abuse. And it's also important to know that the special court usually has to complete the case, hearing this case and giving a judgment, the trial, within a period of 1 year. So justice is going to be delivered on time. It's going to be time bound for these kind of incidents. Next slide, please. Girls are strong. They are from a genetic basis, they are strong. You have more female babies that survive both in utero and in infancy compared to male babies. So girls are intrinsically stronger. Let's keep them that way. Let us give them that power. Next slide, please. So let me remind you again, do not forget to fill the post-test and the feedback at the end of today's session. You will receive the link for the same on your email IDs. Next, please. Let's all tweet together, DHEERA together, right? Hashtag DHEERA together. Let's tweet so that we make this movement a success. Yes. Yes, I think the floor is open for answering your queries on the chat box.
Yeah, we can do that. Couple of questions have come up, or comments have come up. Yeah, Rishabh, I think the doubt that you have raised, a lot of it must have been sorted with the presentation that you just heard, because that talks about management of a vow. And importantly, you don't have to confront, you don't have to get into a fist fight and expose yourself or the person who's getting the suffering also furthermore. The best is to be more tactful, more smart about this whole thing, get the recording done, get some kind of documentation done, and fight a battle to live another day, so to say. You know, uh, it doesn't really always help to get into confrontation unless you have an extended support all around you who will also not be an passive bystander, but will be active bystander to support you. So that collective voice with which you speak together will bring in some amount of resolution, and the person who's perpetrating it is going to back out of it, and thereafter you can follow the whole legal process or the trustworthy process of taking it forward through the steps which we have already highlighted during this chat. Um yeah. uh,
Yeah, any other questions from on the
I
chat
don't
box?
think
I'll just
so.
check.
There's anything in the chat box other than that. If there are any questions that you have, as Srividya is
Yeah, you can
mentioning, or
ask.
anything, you can ask
Yeah.
now, put it in the chat box, we'll address it before we move on to the next session.
So, do you all agree with what was said in this presentation, or do you have a different opinion? If you have a difference of opinion, I'm happy to hear it out. And who knows, you may have a better solution to the problem. So we
I
can work
agree.
on that.
I fully agree. And the youngsters do have good solutions. Yeah.
So
Come on, speak up.
Do you
Speak up.
agree
We
with
have
what we
Kashvi.
say, or do you have a difference of opinion? If you have a difference of opinion, now is the time to say it. You do not accept everything that is said to you by your parents, do you? My children don't.
Yes, neither do mine. Poonam, come on, speak up. Swati. Abhishkar, where are you? Let's hear your voice. Ipshita. Mayank, come on, speak up. Yes, Devangi, agreed with you. One has to be smart. Rishabjit.
Yes.
Gokul, come on, speak up.
Yes.
All of the names who have called out, please speak up, because you don't need to be intimidated.
Should be held practically and in a smart way. That's right. Yeah. You have to take care of your interests. You have to take care that the person whom you're trying to help is not compromised or put in more danger because of your attempts. But at the same time, you have to help actively. It is our duty as responsible citizens to help anyone who is in distress and who is being subjected to violence of any kind. It is our duty, it is our right and our duty to speak up. Any self-defense techniques? Yes, I would advise all of you to learn some kind of martial arts or karate, but the topic of today's discussion is not to teach you self-defense techniques, but it does not harm to know it. All of us should be trained in some form of self-defense. Why not? It will also keep us fit. So I would strongly recommend learning that.
Yeah, and you don't have to necessarily act on knowing that self-defense technique.
You don't have to
many times, many times your perpetrator may be much stronger than you are, and you will end up being hurt even more physically. So the smart thing to do is get out of the situation as soon as possible, document the evidence, and report it so that appropriate action can be taken.
Yes. So shall we move on to the next presentation?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. Shall I try to share my screen if it's
try
possible?
Please, yeah, we see it now.
No, I think Sriman Kumar is sharing it. It's okay. We'll continue this way. So what?
It's like, you feel a little more comfortable if you have the front and back navigation yourself, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But anyway, let's continue.
So what should be your role if you are an active bystander? What do we mean by the term active bystander? Yes, I want responses on the chat box. Bystander to hum sabhi hai. Who is an active bystander? Yes, anybody? Come on, I want your answers. I'm not going to just give a monologue over here. Yes, anybody? Shivangshu Sharma. What
Yeah,
do we
we need
mean
to
by
call
the
out
term?
names. Yeah.
What do we mean by the term active bystander? Active matlab kya? Devangi. Kirik.
Active bystander is someone who's like actively watching what's going down in the scene.
Yes, not only actively watching, he's going to do something about it.
He has the power to act on it.
We all have the power to act on it, but an active, each and every one of us can be an active bystander. Many times what happens, we are seeing violence being perpetrated against people whom we know, our friends, maybe our relatives, our colleagues, but many times we feel that ये उनकी आपस की बात है, मैं क्यों बीच में पड़ रहा हूँ? Why am I getting into this? And we just tend to ignore the situation, avoid it, and pray that it will be over soon. So that is not what should be done, because
Yes, ma'am.
violence being perpetrated is violence all the same, and we must stop it. So if you see violence being perpetrated against someone, don't just stand there and watch it. Try and stop it. So that is the role of an active bystander. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is again a reminder. I'm sorry we are bombarding you with this, but this is important because you are going to get this post-test and feedback form after today's session is over, after 1 o'clock. So be patient, it will come on your inbox. Oh, meaning of modestly dressing. Modestly means to be dressed in a way that you are well covered without revealing too many, in a non-revealing manner. So that is the meaning of modestly. This is, I'm answering somebody's question on the chat box.
Yeah,
So,
Kasumbi has asked that.
yes, yeah, right. So that was the meaning. Yeah, we move on to the next slide. So who is a bystander?
Yeah, continue, please. Yeah, thank you.
Any individual who observes an act of violence, discrimination, any problematic behavior, but is not, obviously, who is not its direct perpetrator. You are not you are not the person committing that violence, but you are observing it. So you become a bystander. Next slide, please. So who is an active bystander? This is a person who is a bystander. This is somebody who is active. He is speaking out against the violence being perpetrated. And I just use the annotation. Just a minute. Yes, so I will use a yes. So this is somebody who is just a bystander. This is somebody who is speaking up against violence. And this is somebody who is actually going to act against the violence and stop it. So, and who does not act or intervene? Many times we are there, we are seeing violence being perpetrated, but we choose to keep quiet. Why do we choose to keep quiet? We think, log kya kahenge? Especially if the perpetrator of violence is somebody senior to you, someone whom you otherwise respect in society. You may feel, how can I speak up against this individual? He is so great. He's such an important personality. So social reasons makes you keep quiet. Many times you may be afraid. What will your friends think? What will the rest of your classmates think if you stand up and speak up for somebody else? So it could be fear of what others will say. So the inhibition of the audience. It could be fear of you yourself getting beaten up or becoming the subject to that abuse that is being perpetrated. What if that individual, say the teacher or the person, the colleague, instead of making X the target of his violence, what if he shifts his attention to you and starts subjecting you to violence? So all this could be the reasons why we may choose to keep quiet. But these should not be, they are not reasons enough to keep quiet. And these are very often things that we see in our day-to-day work. We are late for work, we have something else important to do, and we move on with our life and allow that poor individual who is being subjected to violence, to insults, to handle it by herself or himself. Next slide, please. So 5Ds are the weapons of active bystanders. This is what all we can do when you are an active bystander. Next slide, please. Distract. It's a subtle and safe way to intervene. Just walk up to the person who's perpetrating the violence and say, hey, hello, what is the time? What is the topic of today's lecture? Do you know? Or you know what? I went and saw that movie yesterday and it is so nice. So this is going to interrupt that person from doing whatever he's doing and derail the incident. He may forget that he had started off targeting someone, and the situation is diffused. The person who is the survivor is saved. So these are different ways how we can distract the individual. You pretend to be lost. You ask for directions if the person is someone unknown to you. Ask for the address, ask for the time. So pretend that you know the person who is being harassed, even if you don't know that person. So very often if he sees that there is someone who knows him who has come for help, he may step back. So all these are ways in which you can distract the perpetrator and save the survivor. Next slide, please. You could delay the perpetration of the violence, delay whatever is going to happen from happening, and chances are it may not happen. So be around with that person. Ask her if she's okay. Offer to accompany her to her home or office. Sit with her for a while. So this does involve a commitment of time, patience, courage on your part, but it can go a long way to helping somebody who is in trouble. Next slide, please. Delegate. It's not that you have to step in and do everything by yourself. Just like when you try to resuscitate somebody who is collapsed on the road, you don't try to help that person by yourself. You scream out for help. You ask for 10 people to help you. Here also, you are seeing violence being perpetrated against somebody. Ask for help from as many people near you as possible. You can ask the local shopkeeper, the auto driver, the conductor in a bus. So ask for help if you see a situation going out of control. If a crowd steps in and says that, boss, leave her alone, I don't think what you're doing is right, very often the perpetrator will get scared and will run away. Next slide, please. So it's important to first, as documentation, the fourth D is documentation. So what were the D's so far? Let us have a recapitulation here in the chat box. Let me see if you're awake. Yes, students? Who can tell me the 3 Ds we have discussed so far? Please type your answers in the chat box. Yes, nobody? What were they?
I don't know if it's closer to lunchtime. Mhm. Yes, Kaushambi. Yes.
Document. Document is the fourth one. Which were the first 3 ones? Distract. What else? Delegate. Delay. Very good. Yes. So how do you document violence being perpetrated? And why is it important to document? Because you are creating legal evidence. This can be useful in a court of law. It can be useful to punish the perpetrator. And he will think, if he is punished once, he will think twice about doing it again. So you may just reform or transform the individual by documenting this evidence. But before you start documenting, you assess the situation, see if anybody is helping the person being harassed. It should not happen that that person is being beaten to death and you are sitting and recording a video. So if someone is already there to handle the situation otherwise, and you are safe, you are not likely to be in danger if you start recording, then go ahead and record. It may be of help to the survivor. And once you have recorded and you have it with you, don't just put it on Instagram or WhatsApp groups or something like that. You show it to the survivor who was being harassed, who was the victim, and ask her what she would like to do with the recording. You give it to her. If she would like to delete it and forget about it, it is her wish. Respect that. Okay? Do not make public someone else's grief. Next slide, please. Never post such a recording online, right? So these things are quite sensitive. The person has already been through a traumatic experience. It is the wish of the survivor whom she wishes to share it with and where she wishes to show it, which she wants justice. Next slide, please. The fifth method is a direct method. Like somebody asked me earlier, should we not use self-defense techniques? So that use of self-defense technique of confronting the harasser is the direct method of walking up to that person and saying, hey, I don't think you should be doing this. That requires a lot of courage, but that also may be done if you are fairly confident you will be able to handle the situation. And if you are sure that you have help at hand, only then should you do it. I know of a lady who is now, she's a senior pediatric surgeon in my institute. But when I talked to her yesterday that I'm going to give a talk like this, so she said that when she was much younger, she weighed up just about 35 to 36 kilos. She saw somebody beating up his wife in public on the road. She had the courage to walk up to that person, hold his hand and say, stop this nonsense, what you're doing. Now that was a very brave thing to do. Don't you agree? Right? What if that individual had used violence against her? But many times, if a stranger walks up to you and tells you what you're doing is wrong, please stop it. Who knows? The person may get scared and you may be saving the victim. But there is always a risk that the harasser may redirect their abuse towards you. You may escalate the situation. So what is important when using the direct method is to be clear, to be confident. This is what being clear and confident is, when you choose to use the direct method of confrontation. Many times, even if you are not that powerful, if you walk up to someone confidently and tell them, stop it, I think what you're doing is wrong, there is a good chance, 50% of the time, that the person may get scared and may back off. But never forget that you have to also be cautious and take care of your own interests first. Next slide, please. 1098 is the child helpline number. 100 is the police number. So only intervene, use the direct method only if it is safe for you to do so. If it is not safe for you to do so, please call for help. That is what is recommended. Next slide, please. There are more ways to get involved. This is when you are not seeing violence happening. We have to spread. That is what we are doing. That is what Foxy is doing for you guys right now. We have to be involved in society, in our own schools, in our own community, in our own small ways. Organize actions like write a story about violence being perpetrated or how somebody stopped a violence being perpetrated. Have posters put up, have arrange for street plays, appreciate someone who intervened as a bystander, maybe congratulate that person, felicitate that person at your school level. If you know some organization that is working against violence against women, you could donate your time, your ideas to these people. So this way, each and every one of us has talent in us. Each and every one of us has an intention in us to do good for society. So do not suppress that. Come out and see how you can help people in society. See how you can make this world a better place to live in. That is for you to do. You are the generation of the future. More than us, you should be the ones taking this mantle forward and creating this awakening in society. Next slide, please. What you should not tell a survivor. Why did you go out alone at night? Why did you go alone? Why did you call your sister instead of calling 100? Many times when a person is in a crisis, the person is not thinking very clearly. So you have to see what you can do now at this point and how you can help the individual from this point on. Never, never, never make a survivor feel guilty or blame herself for what happened to her. I do not think that is fair by any stretch of imagination. Next. So remember to fill the post-test and the feedback. Do not forget. Next. Yeah. So let's all tweet together, DHEERA together. So do we have questions in the chat box?
That was a wonderful session, Srividya. Thank you so much. Yeah, there are two comments, come questions in the chat box. One is by Krishnali. She talks about in case. Sorry, yeah. One is by Rishav, who says that what to do in case of any girl tries to misuse her rights by falsely blaming us. Okay, I have asked the students, what is your response? What should one person do in case the girl you tries to misuse her rights by falsely blaming boys or anybody else, not just boys? Why boys? And the second one is by Krishnali. She says, can a girl's dress be responsible for the ways she is treated by the society? What do you all think? Think about these two questions. We will come back to it at the end of the session. We want some feedback from you before we kind of give an our take on it. With that, I will request our dear colleague Shobha.
Yeah, Ajay, right here. Yeah.
Okay, great. Your voice is very feeble.
Okay. Is that better? Is
Slightly
that better?
better?
Is that better now?
Slightly better.
Okay. Now is it better?
It's better.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
better.
So shall I start screen sharing?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah. So let me screen. Very good afternoon to all of you. Okay, I have not yet opened. Just let me go back and open the file. I'm sorry. Today has been a little out of the ordinary day, not the routine. Saturdays can be like that. Just a moment. So I have to speak first on peer pressure. Bridging gender divide. Hello.
First is bridging gender divide, followed by peer pressure.
Yeah. Let me see how best I can show my slides.
Or Shriman can help you. Shriman?
Yeah, just a moment, Ajay. Just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, just try. Let me try.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see this one, and I have shared now.
Yes, we can see it.
So, okay. All right then. That's great. So my topic, and there is a hospital call, Ajay. I'll take 30 seconds on this. 15 seconds. Yeah. Hello. Tell me. That is okay. Yeah, that is done. So now bridging the gender divide, and for the generation today, for all of you, I think it is difficult to believe that the gender discrimination still exists. Most of you will not realize unless you encounter some unpleasant happening which indicates gender discrimination, that it is there, it is very much there. Most of you might have had protected lives in your family, and your parents might have protected you from the fact that, you know, girls and boys need to be very different. Well, that should change now. And then there is a saying which goes that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. There will be some biological differences always, but that is something which should not have an expression in your everyday life, or in your peer interaction, or even in your conduct with the other sex. I think with that, I'll just proceed. Am I able to? Okay, okay. So you have all gone through this. I think I am the last speaker, so you are all very aware of this. And please, whatever questions you have, kindly post them in the chat box. The slides have to move now. Okay. So whom do you identify with these names when you are given, when such names are thrown at you, many of them from Indian mythology? What do you feel? Do you identify them as men or women? And some of them, for example, Harsha, for example, Nayan, for example, Nirmal, Gunjan, they might indicate a man or a woman, a girl or a boy. So genders are nothing but socially constructed concepts, and they help us to structure the family better. They help us to conduct our lives in a way, role assignments comfortably. And that is why the gender exists, but not as far as rights are concerned, or as far as, let us say, the sexual preferences are concerned, or even right to education is concerned, or right to your career is concerned. That discrimination should not be there. Well, if you go through these traits, on the left-hand side, do these traits characterize male or female? Rapidly read them. Active, considerate, aggressive, creative, ambitious, competitive, independent, emotional, a leader, an artist, a mechanical, gentle. So many of us have today seen women performing in the security offices, right? They become security officers. You must have seen them in traffic signal. You must have seen them in the police force, of course. And of course, we have had remarkable leadership from women, especially in our Indian, even during the freedom struggle. So I think this slide is very self-explanatory, that you can easily tick both male and female when these traits are concerned. And there is absolutely no discrimination in capabilities of conducting any role that a woman is assigned. And also emotionally also, both are equally strong. So that is the message we needed to give you, that the traits are common. They have no differences, no major differences at least. Conditioning of gender stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are something that we have all lived with. It is very ingrained in our culture. They become a habitual response. Media and film reward violent male behavior. That is so very sad. Male dominated themes get higher, the accolades, and they are given best actor awards for having portrayed a very, very strong male character who might have had, been unkind to women in the role itself. Parents are more likely to use physical punishment with sons than with daughters. So usually, daughters get scolded more and sons get beaten more. That is what used to happen. If it has changed, I'm very happy that both are treated equally, and physical punishment actually is wiped out from parental care. It is more of a conversation or an interaction which should happen today, especially when the children attain teenage. So it has to be, parental reprimand has to be more of a guidance rather than a restriction or a drastic correction. Parents are more likely to tolerate violent behavior in boys than in girls. Yes, that is very true. And when boys throw around things and in a temper, and we are all asked to keep quiet and let the temper subside. So it is very much there that they are more likely to tolerate. So boys do get away at times with throwing tantrums, which involves physical. Sorry. Yeah. When girls show aggressive opinions or leadership, they are known as bossy rather than responsible. So this also is very much there, because the women, girls are expected to be docile. They're expected to follow opinions rather than express their own opinions. They're expected not to form new thoughts or opinions or new methodologies. They're expected to follow what is laid down by the men in the society. If they do, then they might be criticized, and for that reason, even girls who are capable might feel that it is not worth coming out, even if they have a very brilliant idea. So this is how gender stereotyping exists. Well, I do hope that in your atmosphere it does not exist. I do hope that, but that you are all being brought up in a very equanimous way, because stereotypical rules restrict personal choice. They foster sexism and create unequal outcomes, which is very, very true. It is very true that they will foster sexism, because the boys, inadvertently start feeling that they are the more powerful of gender and they can get away with sexual advances. That might happen. I'm not saying that it will happen, and I am very sure that all of you boys attending are perfect gentlemen, and that you will not be in a position to take advantage anywhere. So you need to understand, is gender bias a social evil? In Indian society, yes or no? Of course, it is a huge social evil. In Indian society, women are oppressed officially and also unofficially. It happens. The seats reserved for women right from Lok Sabha to Panchayat are not equal. If we are given one third of seats, it is like, no, the government has done a very big thing and they get the brownie points for that and some more votes in the next election from the women voters. And it is not, it is not given as a matter of right. It is always looked upon as a favor if you are giving women any higher post. So that should kind of, brings about the very texture of gender bias in our society is very strong as far as administrative posts are concerned. It starts very young. The girls are expected to do the household chores and they have to behave submissively. They should know how to cook. They should be very proactive about cleaning the house, whereas the same is not expected of the boys. It is emphasized when women are expected to leave work to raise kids. Yeah, when the choice comes, who will give up the career? Who will give up the career to look after the children? And very, very often they make a choice and they make it look like it is a very voluntary choice. That is what happened. You remember the most famous Bollywood couple, and Dr. and Mrs. Jaya Bachchan gave up her career, a brilliant actress, a brilliant, lovable actress. She just stopped acting to bring up her children. And in subsequent interviews, she always would say, no, Amitabh has never pressured me. I have made a personal choice. But when it comes to choice, it's never like I will give up 50%, you give up 50%, and we shall raise. So this needs to change. Male babies are preferred. Oh my God, tell me about it. In fact, every baby I deliver who is a girl, I keep asking the family, do you want it or no? Otherwise, I'll take, because this is the most precious thing which has happened to you. So this should change. There should not be any gender preference in birth. All children are welcome as God has sent them to us in the order that He has sent them to us. And if this is understood by families, and if we learn to celebrate birth of our, lovely girl babies, then I think this will go. Workplace discrimination at work causes pregnant women to be fired, and a massive wage gap between men and women, which still exists, of course. And once women become pregnant, they are told that, what is your business? Why did you? The project is there. We need to meet deadlines. How can we keep on giving you work for your pregnancy concerns or for your visits? And what will happen when you take maternity leave? Our project will be in dire strait, etc. That might come to a pregnant woman. Thankfully, today the government has passed a very beautiful rule. Whether it is followed across, I do not know, but women do get a paid maternity leave of complete 1 year to raise the child and breastfeed it adequately. And that is something, a very welcome move, which has happened in the past few years. But while working, especially in private setups, I think the discrimination still exists. No woman is safe from sexual harassment, such as eve teasing and catcalling. And this evil, believe me, I don't think, if you ask any of us, any one of us, I don't think any of us have can say that there has never been such an event. each woman, each girl in this country will say, though they say that the incidence is 1 in 3 of violence, but of this minor type of this irritation and abuse and this kind of putting down a person has happened to almost each one of us. So these are all and it has also resulted in reverse action from the girls when they become aggressive, and they can turn around and say that that is also unbecoming. So I think that these smaller evils from the society, if they are removed, it will go a long way in removing the gender bias. Women are called goddesses, but even the tiniest of mistake on their behalf makes them unworthy of being respected. This, I think, that you are all aware, that we either deify our women, we make them goddesses, seat them on pedestals and pray to them, or we condemn them to hellholes. We say that this woman is not worthy of respect because she has had a relationship before marriage, or she might have just followed her fundamental right, but she might have made a choice, and that choice is kind of condemned. The same choice made by a man may not be criticized in that way. Women do not want to be treated like goddesses. They want to be treated as humans with the same failings that humans have, because to err is human, and that should be so it has to be a non-judgmental atmosphere, and gender bias should be something that we should look at, something that should end gradually. And that is the effort of DHEERA project, to sensitize societies, especially the educational societies, that gender bias should be removed very early in age. It is not a level playing field. Yes. Can you see the different levels that girls and boys are placed? Some countries still don't give women voting rights. That is very appalling. Women still don't have equal access to education. And that to some extent is a little corrected in India, because in India, all girls, if they go to government schools, they have free education till college. Government has assured.
Hi, Shobha.
Yes,
Your
hi.
voice is slightly muffled now.
Okay.
Yeah, now
Okay.
it's better. It's back.
Now
back.
it's better. Okay then. Okay. Child marriages and dowry are prevalent. Tell me about it. And the recent act passed by the government to increase the marriageable age to 21 is so very welcome by most of us professionals. But societies have still got to come to terms with it. But I feel child marriage is something, an evil, a cruelty, which should be removed as soon as possible. Women are not given opportunities at work. Yes, there can be unequal divide, especially when roles and responsibilities are concerned. One man's voice is worth more than that of many women. Well, I hope to see this change being brought about by your generation, dear children, that you will make every voice count, be it a girl or a boy, or men or women, because voices count for change, and change is progress. Women have less access to financial resources. Yes, even when wills are made, girls are not given enough. You all must have witnessed this. There is not enough representation for women in many fields, including politics and leadership. And this is something which we have already discussed. All the genders have to work together as allies. And today you're all growing up in an era when there is not just a male and female gender. There is the third gender as well, and everyone has to work together as allies to create a gender neutral atmosphere, gender responsive atmosphere, and an equal society, to eliminate gender inequality and gender bias. So these are sound as big words, but actually they are the most humane interventions possible to make a society without any fear or favor, and to bring in a truly democratic atmosphere. That is what we hope for. Gender-based prejudice is not an issue of one gender, and Ajay spoke some time back that the impact is equally there on the male gender as well, and I agree with it. I also saw a question by a boy saying, what is it if they are falsely accused? Well, you have to stand your ground. And you have to say that this is not what you have done, and you have to come across to the girl and assure her that, see, my idea was not to insult you. there has been a mistake in your perception. And I think that will take you forward. And it's very important to make it known that you are not objectifying the girls around you. It's very important because girls can be sensitive about it. And the moment they know that there is an objectification rather than a cordial relationship, they may react very, very badly. So please take it to mind that it is possible that she is reacting out of that fear of being insulted, and not because she has anything against you. So you must make it known to her and the surrounding societies, and the surrounding teachers and authorities everywhere. Boys, it's not enough not commit violence. You must be willing to take 8 active steps to ensure that no other men commit such violence. Well, of course, you need to be proactive, and you need to at all times show that you stand, alongside the girl students in your class, and you're going to share the care as the first step. Women take on 3 times more unpaid care and domestic work than men, which is true. Women spend energy and emotional labor at home with family instead of advancing career or looking after themselves. That is very, 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 very true. You must have seen your mother, though she might be very, very qualified, taking the brunt of the domestic chores and taking the responsibility of caring for you, to the limit. Whereas the father may be very burdened with the responsibility of earning, and he takes care. But if she is qualified, then she could also earn, and they can share the domestic chores. That should be the ideal thing. Appreciate those who help you unconditionally. That is important. Respect the sacrifices being made for you. Please have the highest respect for those women around you in your lives who are giving up their personal career growth, peace, happiness, health, in order to look after you. Offer to help whenever you can. So that can be done so many times in the day. This applies to both men, girls and boys. Always be offered to help, share the care in the house. Encourage women to take up their own interests. Yes. So however small or however, little it might be, she should pursue her interest. It may be even an embroidery, it may be even singing or dancing or whatever. She should be able to pursue her interest in order to looking after the family. Hold yourself accountable. Boys will be held accountable. Respect men and women equally. Be aware of your own behavior. Make sure you're open to criticism and change yourself when you see toxicity. So that is very important. Ask questions to yourself whether you have done the right thing in a particular context, whether you have been disrespectful, whether you have been aware of your own behavior, whether you can take constructive criticism and come out a winner by saying that, okay, I will change. Maybe this once I did not realize that I have hurt a person. I will change, and that will gain you more respect. And I think that will be in your favor rather than a minus point. Change notions of traditional masculinity. Man up, don't cry, be strong. Well, men also need to cry. Dr. Ajay very clearly pointed out that the impact is there. They also need to cry. Treat everyone the same way. Allow yourself the freedom to break norms and stereotypes. Question those that do not allow you to challenge stereotypes. You must be questioning. You must be questioning that strange uncle of yours at home who is saying that no, your sister cannot do something. You must question that person and say, why, when I can go out and be there till 7:30, why can't my sister also do the same? We will be safe, don't worry, I'll look after her. Do not excuse men just because they are men. So they cannot get away with anything disrespectful towards women. Make the sensible male fashionable, not the alpha male. That is a very wonderful thing to add, that sensibility so far is considered a feminine trait. So the man also should become sensible and sensitive, and that should come as the new trend or the new thing in vogue, to be a gentleman with that kind of attitude towards women and towards society in general. I have a slight delay in changing the slide. Yeah. Sensitive men will change the next generation. A few years back, we did have programs, school programs from my society as well, and from my committee as well. And we used to conduct all these programs before the pandemic, where we would go and talk about sexual reproductive health And many times the boys would ask, ma'am, हमारे लिए क्यों session नहीं लेते हैं आप, खाली लड़कियों के लिए लेते हैं, take for us also. And that used to touch my heart. And eventually I did a combined session and I did not regret it. It was very rewarding. Most of the boys came forward with their questions very easily without any embarrassment. There was no kind of adverse comment or giggling or talking behind my back, etc. So we need to understand that if man is sensitive, he is a very refined person in Indian society, because Indian society is patriarchal to the core, and the boy is brought up with those values. He sees them in his grandfather and father. So if he is coming across as sensitive to the other genders, then I think he is a very fine person. So men do cry, they break down, they're anxious, they feel insecure, they get abused. Of course, they also go throughout that. So it is imperative on the women's part that we need to support and encourage them. We should give them their due, and we should have respect for their thoughts. And usually the man in the relationship is an older person than the woman. So in a marriage, it is important that his age also is given credit, and he should be considered as head of the family. But then he also should be equally sensitive. Respect others' choices. When someone,
Shobha,
yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to come in for
yeah,
half a
shall,
second. I've just
yeah.
sent you a message, direct message. Just have a
Yeah, I
look.
will look at it. Yeah, I think we are out of time, no, Ajay?
Yeah, we are running out of
What
time.
should I do? You can tell
Uh,
me here.
yeah, I mean,
Whatever you say, I'll do.
no, no, we can continue. We just try to see how best we can manage now.
Okay, so shall I be a little quick?
Yes, please, if you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So respect others' choices. When someone makes you uncomfortable, ask the question why. Examine it. Consider the circumstances that makes your life different, because it might be the other person's conduct might be colored by his experience. Do not judge or shame them for their choices. So that is important, to be non-judgmental. Understand. I'm sorry, there is a disturbance. Kindly mute. I understand that there is a process of consent which needs to be given by the girl before you ask her out. Consent should be, freely given, reversible. At any time, she can change her mind. It's an informed consent. It should be with enthusiasm and not by coercion. And it should be specific. That means, are you coming out tonight? So the consent is only for that particular event. Clear consent is the word yes, and she was asking for it is a wrong thing to say. um, you know Boys will be boys is never acceptable. Never an acceptable excuse. And never blame the victim. Never say that the girl was asking for it. Call out sexism and harassment around it. Try to stop it, try to name it, try to call out these people and try to reprimand them openly, so that you are also on the side of justice. Sexual harassment, at least once women do experience, as I said, all women experience sexism once a week at least. Call out such behavior in a safe, respectful manner, and be an active bystander. Do not excuse friends, relatives, or co-workers because you have to be with them every day. Do not be afraid. Eventually they will understand. Challenge the stereotyping. Question your own prejudices. Challenge any stereotypical notions of gender, like women are not good at driving, etc. Counter the argument with facts. Believe the survivors. Every time a woman speaks up about her experiences, she is not believed. So that the toxicity goes on adding up in her life. When you hear a survivor's story, you have to support that person out and out, be an ally, and offer unconditional support. Change the dialogue, change the conversation. Okay, how can you change the narrative? Change the narrative. And that depends on all of you. Make a gender neutral society. That is what we are looking for you, where we are not sensitive about gender. We can do anything and be anything. Please register and do the post test and the feedback. I think that's mandatory. Let us be courageous together and say no to violence against women. Let us tweet together, contribute to this voice, and post your tweets. Okay, add your courageous voice. That is what is required. Thank you for listening to this particular presentation. Um,
Well, thank you so much, Shobha. It has been very, very elaborate and to the,
yeah.
brought in a lot of your personal experience and wealth into this whole thing.
Thank you.
We can move on to the last one then, Shobha.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
New peer pressure. I've opened it now. I will share it and then let me see if it is seen. Yeah, it is seen. And I'm sharing. And can you see? Not
Yes,
the
we can
first one.
see it.
We can see?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So decoding the peer pressure. Okay, I must acknowledge Dr. Shanta Kumari at this point of time, our visionary president, for having given us all the opportunity to interact with the generation next, with the future of this country. I'm very thankful to her, and of course to Ajay for facilitating all this. The main highlights of this lecture: identify the toxic environment, which is leading to the peer pressure, good versus bad touch, of course, the concept of consent, and the power of no. This no should be in capital letters. Remember it as capital letters inside your minds. Please do that, because all of you must realize by now, I think most of you know that sex in human beings is more of a mind thing. It's more of a mind thing. It is different from other living beings. And God gives a lot of control centers in the brain wherein you can channelize your energies elsewhere and control the urges. I hope you have all registered, you have all completed the pre-test, and you will be doing the post-test and the feedback. What exactly is peer pressure? It can be any influence that peers have on each other to conform to behaviors and personal habits of a group. Okay, it can be any influence. Okay, and if a girl telling a boy, it is happening, this is what is happening in my house, my mother is being reprimanded, and the boy saying that is what happens, it happens in my family also. So instead of saying that, I think they need to micro dissect it and say that no, both of us will not tolerate this against our mother. Most of the time peer pressure is too subtle to identify but has enormous effects. Okay, enormous effects. So here we are talking about influence by your friends, your people who are around you, in order to commit something which you may not completely agree to or you're not comfortable with, but it is at the same time very subtle. An invitation to a party which is doing on the liquid tonic, etc., and you feel that it is not correct, but most of the girls around you and the boys will say that no, how can you be left out, are you not our friend? And that is how it may start. The problem may start from there. Okay, I'm not very easy. Huh? Types of peer pressure. It could be spoken when one peer openly persuades another. You must all have experienced it. Unspoken, when one peer is persuaded by exposure to behavior. Okay, unspoken. It's not exactly an open invitation, but it is unspoken. For example, a gesture or a sign that you will not be welcome into the group again, or it could be something like something else which does not come across very kindly when it is spoken, but it is indicated as a gesture. Direct, when one peer has to make an on spot decision, handing over a cigarette. So it could be that. And if you refuse the cigarette, you are looked upon as you get a black mark in the friend circle. So that you have to be brave enough to say no. Indirect, when the peer overhears another one gossiping and changes behavior due to indirect pressure. So it could be that you overhear girls criticizing you that okay, she's such a prude and she refused, and next time we are not going to include her, etc. Negative, when a peer is pressured into behavior that is against their moral code. This almost amounts to a crime, because if there is pressure, if there is dragging, or if there is hand holding and pulling, that you come and join us, you get into this vehicle, let us go, etc. Positive, when a peer is influenced by behavior that is healthy and responsible. So peer pressure is something you can get some positive dividends out of it. You can change the mindset of those who are inflicting the pressure, and you can come around and say that, see, I can do it this time, but these are the consequences. So let us look at it in another way, and that is how you can counter the peer pressure. So it can be influenced by behavior that is healthy and responsible, and you can come around it, and you can make something good out of it also. Signs of a toxic environment: your friends make you feel bad about yourself. We just discussed all these emotions in the last slide. We have already discussed friendship on their terms. You're never sure where you stand. Gossip is constant. Gossip is something which kills your inner fabric. I have found as personal experience that gossip is something which is very harmful, very harmful. And the best way to deal with it is not to lend an ear to it. That is the best way. Effort is all one sided. They don't respect your boundaries. You feel pressurized to do things you don't want. There's competition to be popular, so they will not treat you as a favorite person. You're terrified one mistake could make them leave you and go. And this is the one factor which is very, very detrimental, that you are afraid of being lonely. So this is the time when you should speak to others in the family, and you should speak to friends outside this circle. And we recommend you to have a very large body of friends and a wide circle of friends, not only in your immediate vicinity, but also through Facebook or through social media across the country, across the ocean. Have a large group of friends to interact and take inputs from them. They encourage your worst traits. Your friends around you encourage the worst part of you. If you have a weakness for particular, they might take advantage and say that, okay, if we are doing this, she's definitely going to join. How to avoid uncomfortable situations? Avoid strangers, of course. Going out with them, importantly. Make sure that your family is aware. Always tell them, always tell your whereabouts to your family. It's a huge safety factor. And take connection with you, a phone. Respect other people's boundaries. Draw boundaries. Be confident to say no to anything you're not comfortable with, and dial the police number if you need a sense of danger. And do it a little earlier than later, because don't hesitate to dial 100. Learning to differentiate to toxic people is the first step to cleansing toxicity. So learn that to whom you must avoid. Boys who are against feminism, though feminism in itself may not be a very rewarding emotion, but if boys are openly against feminism, that means they have gender discrimination in their mind. Who are rude, who don't respect your boundaries, who pressure, who start fights, who use bad language, who comment on a girl's appearance without any asking for her opinion, and who make jokes which are very unpalatable, below the belt jokes which are very, very, very indecent. So you must avoid them. Just go out, and then even if it means losing that particular group, it is all right. They are not worth making friends. Girls who think it's unmanly to cry, who hit or slap their boyfriends, who are violent, who are very, very materialistic, and bad language. Boundaries are not respected. And girls who call you a girl thinking it's an insult. So they use the gender as a slur, as an insult, who don't think men can be victims of abuse and rape. So if they are not broad-minded enough to understand the vulnerability of the other gender as well, then I think that these girls should be avoided by you at all times. Learn to put yourself first. It is not selfish to think about you first, as yourself first. As far as this particular evil is concerned, of gender discrimination, of peer pressure, please learn to think of yourself first. Set boundaries you're comfortable with. Boundaries will sound like, I lend a phone call, I need time, I can stay for this much time, I don't respond to emails at the weekend, thank you for your offer, I am not comfortable, thank you but no, I am not comfortable with that, I'm not comfortable discussing this, I respect your opinion, but this is my decision. So these are the boundaries that you can set. Beautiful slide. This is, always carry this slide with you. I suggest you take a snapshot and carry. So if you get a phone call or a mail, you can open this and take guidance from this. I think that's very well done. Good touch and bad touch. Oh, you are all very smart. I don't think I need to teach you about good touch and bad. This is what we teach middle school children. Peer pressure can make it feel like touch is acceptable, which is not true at all. Speak out. when you feel uncomfortable, and you have the power to say, no, don't touch me like this. Okay, you must tell, so that the perpetrator does not repeat it again, either with you or with anybody else. The concept of consent is paramount, it is important, it is integral to your healthy social life. Always remember, consent is permission. You always have to give permission. Girls and boys, you always have to ask for consent. It goes both ways. Do not assume that she is consenting. Respect the consent, especially if she says no. Stop if she says stop, if she turns away, if she says I don't want to, if she shoves away, if she says leave me alone, if she says passed out, I am not ready, pushing you away, I don't feel like it, drunk or drugged also means no, because she's not knowing what she's doing, get away from me, screaming, don't, crying, yes means one thing only. So if she says yes, only then you can proceed. Anything else should be considered as a no. So that's fairly simple. And I don't think the audience today is so very refined. I don't think they will be in a situation. But please remember, girls, that you have to learn to say no. Don't say maybe if you want to say no. That is another important. Just say no, leave the scene, make up an excuse, use humor. Yeah, that's a very good. The humor can be used as a weapon for to defend yourself. To defend yourself, I find that very, 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 very useful. You change any bad conversation into a joke, and you just leave from there. That requires guts and presence of mind. So develop yourself like that. Become a person like that, and then they will not mess with you again, because they'll understand you're far too brainy. Okay, change the subject. Okay, change the subject and suggest a better idea. Let us do this instant. Remember to always listen to your gut instinct, because God has given all of us that. Dreaming of a better future for our future generations is Foxy's dream. And along with our partners. Ajay, thank you so much for this opportunity and for your appreciation. Remember, girls, you're never too young to, boys, you're never too young to respect women. It should begin with your childhood, and little girls with dreams become women with vision. Please remember, like our president, Dr. Shanta Kumari. Thank you very much. I want every girl to know that her voice can change the world. Malala is what Malala said. You should stand hugely inspired by that brave girl. Registration and pre-test you must have done, and post-test and feedback is expected from you. A sincere thank you for all those who have helped. I think this should be done by Ajay and not by me. Yeah. Thank you.
That is, thank you so much, Shobha. And my sincere apologies to you for having rushed you, because
It's perfectly all right.
sorry.
I understand. I understand. Always.
Yeah, and it's been simply wonderful. We have run out of time for this entire session, but we began about 5 to 7 minutes late because we were waiting for all the students to join in. But if you have any questions or anything, you're free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask the question. We will have another 5 minutes more. After that, we'll call the session to a close with a big thank you to everyone who has been part of the session, especially Nandini, Srividya, and Shobha, who have been so gracious enough to, spend this valuable time with all of you and talking about this very, very important subject matter. So boys and girls, students, the session and the floor is open to you to ask your questions. Unmute yourself and please don't feel intimidated. Please go ahead and ask your question. We are there to help you and guide you and give you our inputs. And we will address the two questions that you all had already asked earlier, Rishabh and I think Rishali. I'll refer back to them. And Kaushalbi also has asked some questions. We'll address them. Any questions that you all have, please. Let me not call out your names. Come on.
You can just unmute and talk.
Yeah, unmute and talk. I think we'll have to call out names, right? Maitri, come on. Maharnav. Let's hear you. Sahiluddin, let's hear from you.
somebody called Ipshita.
Yeah, Ipshita, come on. Rishabjit, let's hear from you.
आप लोग सब हैं कि नहीं है, कम से ये तो बता दीजिए कि are you there or not there?
Yeah, I know. We can't make
So we
out.
are just talking
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
bunch of ourselves.
Come on, you need to keep the DPS flag flying high.
Correct.
Students, come on. Let me goad you. Maitri, are you there?
They are shy.
Sahiluddin, come on. And Ayush, you have a lovely emoji in front, no, a lovely DP. Ayush, Gogai, I like that one. Come on, let's hear something from you.
We'll take it from the chat box.
Yeah, chat box will take it up since our students seem to be intimidated or do not want to come out and speak. The first one was by Rishav, who said what to do in case a girl. I think Shobha has already replied that earlier, and there's. You need to be open about it, keep the communication channels open, keep talking, but beyond a certain point, there's not much that you can do. And therefore, before you reach that situation of something being accused of, there are always telltale signs. There are always intuitive feelings. There is always an instinctive feeling that you have. And you've had that feeling, put a stop to it then and there before you get into this final situation where it is a no-go thereafter. And, you find yourself into a predicament which you can't get out of at that point in time. So look at your own sense, build in that bit of empathy, build in that bit of equity and equality, and treat every individual, I wouldn't say woman or man or a girl or a boy, each individual with that respect, and you will never face this kind of a situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shobha, Srividya, you can come in, Nandini, if that's what I'm expressing is in line with what you think.
I agree.
Okay. Then there was one raised by, can a girl dress, Krishnali raised it, should be responsible for the way she's treated by the society. This again has been answered by one of our team members. And my thought is certainly not. Dress has nothing to do with, however, that is our opinion. The larger population does not think like that. And especially, that's the way their thought processes have been working over a period of time. And it should not be a limiting factor. In fact, I can give you my own example. I have two grown-up daughters, young adults, and they do dress up the way they like to, and we encourage them for that. And however, having said that, we always ask them and tell them that yes, you're dressing up like that, but be cognizant of the fact that you're able to carry it out. And two, do not take any nonsense if anything happens or anything comes to you in relationship to that, because that is your right and we stand by you. So that's what we. Any other opinions, Shobha, Nandini? Please feel free to come in, Srividya, after.
Also, remember to dress appropriate to the occasion. For instance, if you're coming to college, then you should be formally dressed because you're coming to a place of work. If you are going to a temple or a church, there are certain rules. So dress appropriate. It's not that you should not wear the kind of clothes you like to wear, but what would be appropriate so that you do not offend someone else's sensibilities when you are going to a public place, and you follow the dress code appropriate for that place you are going to. So that is a general rule.
Yeah, Srividya, I agree with that. I also wanted to say the exact same thing, that you dress appropriate to the occasion. And I think you should be smart. You can carry off a sari also with a lot of style, and you can You can wear a t-shirt with a lot of decency, with a lot of modesty. So it's not that there is anything indecent about any dress. It's the way it is worn, and I'm sure you will be able to appear at all times as very decorous. That is what is needed to be decorous, both for boys and for girls. There is a kind of decorum which encourages gender neutrality. That is what I feel. It's not that one should not expose. It's not that. Don't get me wrong. You can wear your sleeveless dresses. You can wear, but the way you wear it will make it, appropriate. So, and also the situation, the which Sri Vidya has already told. Yeah.
Kaushambi has mentioned, sir, what if any girl misuse the rights to blame others? Now, that's in that girl's DNA. You know how much you can insulate and protect yourself from everything that is happening around you. There's a limit to how much an individual can do something related to that. Having said that, uh, the only way is one needs to have a dialogue and a communication and keep those channels open. Inform the people whom you trust, your seniors, your parents, your teachers, and also alert wherever required the higher authorities, because they are the ones who can intervene and make good sense prevail. Anything else you all want to add? Please go ahead. That's my take.
Yeah, very correct that it should be respected if the girl has called out a problem. I think one has to micro dissect and find out if the said person is blameworthy or not. That is very important. It is important to understand from the boy's perspective that he has every right to defend himself. And if he is really innocent, then he should come out and tell that in the best possible way. What we need to remember is that if we rubbish one call like this, if we come down heavily on the girl for giving a wrong, it might or might not be her fault. She might have perceived it like that. Or maybe her fault and she is a cunning person. Both, in both ways, if we try to curb this kind of outburst, I think we will be actually curbing hundreds of responses which are actually justified, because this will come out as an example कि क्या फायदा बोल के हम ही को इंसल्ट कर दिया उन लोगों ने, हमको ही दोषी ठहरा दिया, तो अगली बार तो हम नहीं बोलने वाले हैं, हम तो सिर्फ ऐसे ही छोड़ देंगे. This is what the girls will start to think, because if it all comes back on them, then why would they? The shame deepens. It is, for the first shame is when it happens to you, and the second shame is when you are not believed about it. So instead of curbing such responses, girls should be encouraged to speak out, should micro dissect, and a clear message should go to the community that you are most welcome to come forward and tell your troubles. It is all right. Whether it is right or wrong, we will see up to it. And believe me, one or two such complaints go, the incidence of eve teasing, etc., will come down on itself. By itself, it will come down, right? In your own college premises, it will come down, because they will all be alert कि अरे किसी ने कर दिया तो कितनी बदनामी हो जाएगी. What our parents will think, that we are, as boys, we are not very dignified. वो सब, people will start thinking. So it is going to have a positive effect only. Please don't suppress women who come forward to tell their difficulties. Yes.
True that. Since there are no further questions or any comments, last 1 minute, please. If anything else you have in mind, please speak up or put it in the chat box. Else we'll call the this training program to a close. This 1 minute seems very long, right?
Aryan Akif has said, in his opinion, dress does matter in some level, according to the environment and the place they are wearing the dress in. Yes, Aryan, it is important. And
Yes.
it's important both for boys and for girls.
That's right. That's absolutely right, Aryan. Yeah, good one. So thank you very much, students, for this lovely interaction and for patiently hearing all of us speak on this occasion. And be very, very proud of yourself, because you're the first school in the country to have conducted this program. We have 860 schools more to go. We have a complete list, and we are up to the task, and we are super delighted to continue with all of this. On that note, I will leave it to Srividya and Shobha and Nandini to have the last words, and then we close the meeting.
I can only thank the Foxy president, and I can thank Ajay and his team for making it possible. I loved the interaction. Thank you so much. It's very rewarding.
Same here. I too love the interaction. I once again thank Dr. Shanta Kumari, Foxy, Ajay, and your team for making this possible. It was fun interacting with all of you and sharing my views with all of you. I think there was one last question asked by one student as to how to protect himself in such a situation in case of a false accusation. It's important that each of us is smart to protect ourselves from a false accusation, to not put ourselves in such a situation in the first place. Right?
True that. True that.
Thank you. Dr. Nandini, over to you.
I thank Foxy team and I thank the team of DHEERA. And dear children, kindly after the session, kindly write the post test. It will be in a Google form and write your valuable suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. As you leave the meeting, you will get two options pop up. Continue, exit Zoom. Do not click on exit Zoom because then you will not get the Google form. Please click on continue so that you will get the Google form to submit your responses. So have a lovely evening, all of you, and all the students, all the very best for any upcoming exams that you might be having. Take care, stay well, stay safe. Bye-bye.